So hey everyone, my name is Karma and today I'm going to be going through my predictions for all the groups of the Columbus Majors over the next couple of days. This is the final part, so we're going to be doing all three groups that are left, which is groups B, C, and D. Now we're going to go over group B in a bit of a lengthy kind of prediction, and then I'll also give my short predictions for group C and D with an annotation on screen right about now and a timestamp in the description so you guys can skip to that if you just want to go straight from group B to group C and D very quickly. Also, I would like to ask you if you would please tell me in the description, in the comments, whether you like long predictions or short predictions for future videos. So you can watch the last episode, it'll be on the screen right now, and at the end of the video. So let's start with the analysis and predictions. So starting with FaZe versus Liquid. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is an incredibly hard match to pick because honestly, both of these teams have a very similar playstyle. They rely on their aimers. They really flip-flop around a lot. They don't have very consistent kind of play styles. They aren't that tactical, and they're just such a similar team in terms of composition and how they work. You know, they have lots of AWPers, lots of aim stars, and just very little cerebral play. So I will favor FaZe in this matchup since they have, well, first of all, better aimers. Their team composition is a lot more solid compared to Liquid. They don't have a stand-in like Liquid does with Adren, and also Liquid themselves don't have a very deep map pool in comparison to FaZe. FaZe have a lot of maps that they're better on, and in comparison to Liquid, they're just much more solid across the maps that they're actually very good at. So when it comes down to the vetoes, I think FaZe will ban Cobblestone, Liquid will ban Train, FaZe will ban Overpass, Liquid will ban Mirage, and then FaZe will ban Inferno. So this results in either Cache or Dust 2 being picked by the randomizer. And these are really the two best maps for these two teams. They really enjoy them. It's their best maps. They've had huge results on them. Unfortunately for Liquid though, they haven't really looked that great on either map lately. They've looked really shaky, and at the qualifier, Liquid barely made it through with a massive comeback on Dust 2. Not to mention at the online iBuyPower Spring Invitational Final against Cloud9, Liquid managed to let a C9 comeback on Dust 2 after an 11-0 lead. So without proper leadership, Liquid aren't lost, but they seem to be either barely winning rounds off their skill, or they're just, I don't know, pulling off really basic kind of tactics. Now, also, I would have to say that 3 out of the 5 FaZe players are better than Liquid's players. I would probably pick Rain, Michaelele, and Jacob, and even AZ too. So really, I guess 4, but Michaelele is a little bit inconsistent. So let's say 3 that are better than Liquid's players. Sure, they have Simple, but I mean, Hiko is just a solid player. He doesn't look that insane like he did on Cloud9 before. Liege is a bit up and down, and Nitro is completely inconsistent, and I don't really think you can rely on Adren. So yeah, when it comes to Cache, at the iBuyPower Spring Invitational, Liquid got wrecked by C9 on Cache something like 16-6 or 16-8. So I'll be honest and say that if Liquid seems organized and is firing on all cylinders in this first match, then they can beat FaZe. Because FaZe looks pretty bad lately. I mean, they've lost to like mousesports Online and a bunch of other teams. So they're not like great, but they're not terrible. And in my opinion, I still really will favor FaZe in this matchup. I mean, around about 60-40. Since they have the better players, they have better results lately in comparison to Liquid. They seem much more organized, but they themselves are still shaky. So I expect it to be a close match since these teams have very similar styles in terms of loose calling, mixed in with extremely good skill for their respective regions, and it's on each other's best 2 maps. Now, moving on to Fnatic versus Splyce. Now, what can I say? I mean, Splyce will probably just get wrecked because Fnatic is, well, easily the best team in the world and is far and beyond having the ability to beast a team like Splyce. You know, they'll just body them. Now, no disrespect to Splyce, because I would favor them if they were playing maybe a team like Liquid, depending on what the maps ended up being. But in this kind of matchup, it would basically require Fnatic to either be asleep in their chairs or Splyce to maybe use some hacks. So To me, the skill disparity alone is enormous. Fnatic easily trumps anyone on Splyce, and I expect them to just wreck them like 16-8 or 16-6 on a map, and that's if Splyce plays well. And before you say I'm biased, you have to remember this is a major, and many of Splyce's players have never had this much pressure on their shoulders. I mean, imagine going to your first major and having to qualify by beating the best team in the world in your first match. These players just don't have the experience or skill to do it. So let's head to the map vetoes and see if there's some sort of hope there. So Fnatic will ban Cache since it's their weakest map and it's Splyce's strongest. Then Splyce will ban Inferno since it's such a stable map for Fnatic and they're really shaky on it, Splyce are. Then Fnatic will ban Dust 2 just to keep Splyce from having any sort of victory. Splyce will then ban Cobblestone since it's like Fnatic's second or third best map, leaving Fnatic to then ban Train and leaving Mirage or Overpass in the map pool for the randomizer. Now, if it heads to Mirage, I could expect Fnatic to win this quite easily, as Fnatic is a very strong team on Mirage. They've beaten teams like Astralis, like Na'Vi. So, also considering that Splyce got destroyed by Winterfox on this map 16-1, it's not a far and beyond thought to think that they're going to get absolutely destroyed on this map. And with no bans left, they're basically rolling a 50-50 dice, since they already banned Cobblestone and Inferno, which are their worst maps. So if it heads to Overpass also, this will be one of Splyce's better maps. It's more like a mediocre one for them. But again, it's not one of their best maps, and Fnatic are really good on this map. I mean, it's called Olaf Pass for a reason. So all in all, I predict a 90-10 split in favor of Fnatic to win this. I mean, Splyce just don't have the experience, the skill, or the map pool to match Fnatic. And as a result, Fnatic should just plow over them. And if they ban the way that I said, if they do, then they should eliminate Splyce's best maps in Dust 2 and Cache and only leaves maps that they are mediocre on, such as Overpass and Mirage, or Cobblestone if they ban Mirage instead. So expect a comfortable win from Fnatic. Now, if everything goes according to plan, then the next matches will be FaZe versus Fnatic and Liquid versus Splyce. So with FaZe versus Fnatic, in this matchup, I feel again favors Fnatic. They have so much experience against teams such as FaZe. Even in terms of skill, FaZe I feel can't match the likes of Crimson, Olofmeister, and even Flusha. FaZe also don't have as deep as a map pool as Fnatic do. And sure, I mean, I would put FaZe further ahead than Splyce, but it's not enough for me to favor them. Sure, Rain and Michaelele and even AZ may be able to pull off some miracle rounds, but that's not enough for me to push Fnatic to the side and say that FaZe will come out even close to winning. I mean, most score lines between these teams end around 16-7 or 16-10, and those aren't really close scores when you look at a team like Fnatic, because most rounds that Fnatic wins are actually really dominant kind of rounds where maybe 3 or even 2 players live. So in terms of vetoes, I think FaZe will ban the first map, which will be Cobblestone. It's their worst map, and it's a really good one for Fnatic. Then Fnatic will probably ban Cache, since it's FaZe's best map, and Fnatic aren't great on it, but they're not terrible. Then FaZe will probably ban Inferno, since it's a really stable map for Fnatic, and considering FaZe couldn't even be envious on it, and they looked pretty shaky lately, then that's probably what will happen. Then Fnatic will ban Mirage, since it's a really good map for FaZe, leaving FaZe to either ban Overpass or maybe Dust 2 or something like that. So this results in either Dust 2 or Train being the remaining maps for Fnatic. And honestly, that's tough because either team is great on these maps. They love Dust 2 and they love Train. So as far as I'm concerned, this will probably be the maps. I will, however, have to still favor Fnatic, since they're a really solid Dust 2 team and they're even a pretty great Train team. I will admit, though, that FaZe are great on these maps too, but Fnatic have beaten the best of the best on these maps, such as Na'Vi, Luminosity, and even Astralis in the case of Dust 2. So, as far as I'm concerned, Fnatic have this in the bag, with around a 70-30 split in favor of them. Once again, FaZe can upset, but I'm doubting it. And since FaZe don't have nearly the same amount of skill, nor the map pool to really push themselves over Fnatic in a BO1, I'm going to favor Fnatic. Now, the next match is Liquid versus Splyce. Now, I can't tell you how much of an exciting match this will be, because if Liquid show a dominant presence here, they will probably get beaten by FaZe in a best of 3. But if they manage to just blow Splyce away, then maybe they can beat FaZe and make the round of 8. So this is a really big telling match. As for Splyce, I would have to say this is their best chance to push through. I don't think they will make the round of 8, but hey, I mean, maybe they can allow for FaZe an easier passage to the Legends teams if they somehow upset Liquid. In terms of how good Liquid is doing, well, just off skill I'd have to put Liquid ahead of Splyce, but Splyce do have a good chance since Liquid have been shaky as I mentioned earlier. Sometimes in these types of North American matchups, the teams that have more solid tactics and better roles can outmatch a bunch of skilled misfits. The real decider though for me is that duo of Nitro and Elige. I mean, if they show up, I think it'll just be a feast on Splyce. If you splash in a little magic from Simple and Hiko, you pretty much get a recipe for success for Liquid. So as far as map vetoes, I expect Liquid will ban Train, then Splyce will ban Cobblestone, Liquid will then ban Inferno, Splyce will then ban Overpass, leaving Liquid to ban Mirage, which then leaves us with a random map of either Dust 2 or Cache. Now, considering these are strong maps for either team, I have to favor Liquid. They have much more skill in Nitro and Elige, as well as Hiko and Simple. Liquid also, I would have to say, have better holds than Splyce. The difference is that Splyce will probably have better tactics or strategies to employ and much more clear leadership. So, in terms of clarity, Splyce know what they're doing, but Liquid might be able to pull off the win just through their insane and extremely good skill. So for me, if Liquid find a good way to call, and if Nitro and Elige are really feeling it, then they'll win this. So all in all, a 65-35 split in favor of Liquid. Now this leaves us with the final match of FaZe versus Liquid in a best of 3, and I have to say that this is the first match that will either be an amazing match or a complete smashing by one of the teams. Now, I have faith that Liquid can maybe upset, like I said, in the first match, but unfortunately, the clear vision and direction by FaZe makes me favor them alone. On top of that, they seem to have a deeper map pool compared to Liquid, where they share being good on Cache and Dust 2 just like Liquid, but they seem much more rock solid on maps such as Mirage, Train, and Inferno. So, as far as I'm concerned, all signs point to a FaZe win. The difference is, though, will players on either team show up? Because these teams heavily rely on their players performing on both sides in order to win, because they aren't exactly the most cerebral of teams. So I'd have to say that FaZe is much more consistent, but if Liquid seems on point, then FaZe don't consider that Liquid maybe will pull off a close match for them, and they might be able to get in their heads and pull off maybe a 2-1 win. But I still stand by FaZe winning this, possibly 2-0, since Liquid seem to be so lost in terms of leadership lately, and the fact that FaZe can abuse the map pool, and the fact that Adren is a stand-in. So in terms of vetoes for this best of 3, I expect that FaZe will ban Cobblestone, Liquid then bans Mirage, FaZe will then pick Train, Liquid will then pick Dust 2 or Cache, leaving either Dust 2, Cache, Inferno, or Overpass to be the remaining map to be picked by a randomizer. Now, considering on the first 2 maps, FaZe has a strong chance, and they will probably win it 2-0, since they're actually quite good on Train, and of course because it's their pick, and they're really good on either Dust 2 or Cache, so you can possibly be a 2-0. But if Liquid somehow manage to take it to a third map, if Overpass is picked by the randomizer, then it's Liquid's only chance to win, since FaZe are at best mediocre on Overpass. So I stand by a 65-35 split for FaZe to win this matchup, though, and they will probably most likely move to the round of 8. But Liquid might be able to pull off an upset. It's a very small chance, but if they get their shit together, I believe they can do it. So we're moving on to my very quick predictions for Group C and Group D of this major. So in Group C, we have EnVyUs, CLG, Astralis, and Gambit. Now, if you're asking for my honest opinion, I think that EnVyUs and Astralis should make it out of this group. They're by far and beyond the best, most skilled teams. They have the most experience. They've won previous tournaments. I'll probably admit, though, that EnVyUs are in a slump, so there is a very small chance that Gambit could upset Do I think CLG have the potential to do it? I mean, if they got their leadership together and hired a good analyst, sure, they could maybe pull off an upset against a pretty much dying Envious. The problem is, unfortunately, that they just don't have that potential right now. They seem really lost, and I don't know, I'm not really too sure if it's the players that aren't performing or if they're trying to totally change the way that they're playing the game and they're just not wrapping their head around it right now. But I would have to say CLG are just not the team that they were about a year ago. In terms of Gambit, I mean, they got good aimers, but in terms of tactical play, they're not very strong. So I would have to say Astralis and Envious will top this group, but I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Envious fell out. I mean, it's almost a guaranteed that Astralis will make it. Now for Group D, we have Na'Vi, Cloud9, Virtus.pro, and G2. So this is an interesting group because there's 3 potential teams that can make it out here, and I don't want to really put my faith into a team like Virtus.pro right now, but I would put it probably in Virtus.pro over Cloud9. By far, I would have to say Cloud9 aren't the team that they were in the summer of last year. They just seem to be totally lost without Sean. I mean, nothing is nowhere near a cerebral player. The guy's a scatterbrain. I have my opinions about the dude. I don't think that he's that great of a player. I don't think he can reach any high peaks. He's a known quantity. He's incredibly inconsistent. I don't think he can lead a team. So for me, I'm going to have to pick Na'Vi and G2 here. Now, I know that's a weird thing to say, but Virtus.pro look really out of form and incredibly lost, and G2 every day are looking better and better, and I'm not sure if it's because they made Existence the leader again, or maybe Shox is still calling. I'm not entirely sure in terms of team composition, but G2 seem really on fire, and their map pool is really good right now. Virtus.pro, for whatever reason, has just dropped the ball. They're not winning aim duels anymore. They're not having good team composition. They're not communicating well. So I can't really pick them. And that's really sad, considering Virtus.pro is such a great team. So I hope that Virtus.pro maybe can show up and show their true form. If I was picking this maybe last year, I would have definitely said Na'Vi and Virtus.pro. But I'm going to have to pick Na'Vi and G2. They just seem so strong right now. Na'Vi is by far the best team in the world, right behind Fnatic. So the second best. Potential best if they can get their stuff together. G2, probably the best French team now that Envious has really kind of died out. Again, though, I'm not entirely faithful in these players because they are known to choke at majors. Not Shox, but players like Existence, Scream, RPK, they're not that great at majors, and they don't really have the experience to win a major. So at the very end of the day, this is a tough group, but I'd have to say that Cloud9 definitely won't make it out. If they do, I will be pleasantly surprised, but I highly doubt it. I mean, there's a chance, but it's so low right now. I mean, nothing always just performs badly at majors, and when he's calling, I can't expect him to do well. I mean, when he was actually not the in-game leader, he had the lowest rating on Cloud9 last year, below Sean Gares at the majors. So now that he's calling, he's got much more pressure on his shoulders, and that's just a time where he probably won't perform. So yeah, at the end of the day, Na'Vi G2. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like, a comment, and subscribe. I take everyone's feedback seriously. I love you guys. Peace out.